Hi, this is Charlie. We are continuing to work on our album featuring Stamperia's Brocante Antiques. And before I go into the next signature, I did want to point out that I had always felt that Brocante up here all by itself didn't depict the entire collection because it is Brocante Antiques. So I noticed on the front of the background selections, there is the word antiques in here. Now in my scraps, I found a strip that had this in there, and so I cut it out and I glued it right there. So now I feel like the front of the album is complete. So if you want to add that one final element to yours, or leave it just the way that it is. So now we're going to get into our fourth signature, and this is somewhat what I have laid out. We're going to play with a couple of the chipboard pieces. This is a 12 by 12 sheet that has the clocks depicted on it. So I'm using one of the clock chipboard pieces, and we're just going to slightly angle it here. And then we have a couple of indications of some stamps. So I thought what I would do is then accent that with one of the chipboard pieces that is 2 stamps. So what I want to get into, that's the front of it. Let's get down into the center of this so I can start giving you some measurements. Let me get this thing apart here just a little bit. Okay, I'm using the 12 by 12 sheet out of the patterns that's green, that has this beautiful floral type indication with some leaves on it. And it is going to measure for you at 9 1/4 inches across, and then 8 3/4 inches in its height. I need to cap off my glue here real quick before it tip dries. So once I had this piece cut, it is a large piece, and I wanted to put a little bit larger pocket here on the bottom. So we're going to kind of play with, or I'm going to play with, you can choose which elements you want, but I wanted to play with some of the chipboard pieces and some of the cut aparts. So I have the big teddy bear. We're going to sit it right here. I fussy cut out one of the time pieces, and I'm going to kind of angle it right underneath the teddy bear's foot. And then I have found this piece, and I fussy cut it out. And I'm going to come in right about here with it. And then right here at the end, I'm going to angle in this lamp. Oops, supposed to be underneath of it. There we go. And put in this lamp that was part of the cut aparts. I'm messing around with it. This is going to go underneath there, but this is what it's going to look like when we get it done. So I'm going to go ahead and slide these off. And I'm going to get this taped on. Oh, you know what I did? I just forgot to give you the dimensions of this pocket. So hold on here just a second. Let me get my tape on, and I'll get you the dimensions of the pocket. And you can see that I continued with the brown accent from my die selection. I wanted to play with this particular piece. I didn't want to cut it down. I like the warmth of it. It kind of reminds me of an old-fashioned quilt. So I wanted to keep its height intact. So I cut a piece of the light-colored cardstock at 3 1/4 inches, and of course it goes the length, so it's going to be 9 1/4 inches. And then I just barely trimmed this in to fit. Okay, going to glue this on, and then I'm going to go ahead and get this taped down. We're getting so close to being done. I hope you're enjoying the build. There we go. Go ahead and get these other elements in place, and then we can work on 2 of these side panels. Whoops, I'm sorry. I know that's got to clank pretty loud. I apologize. Okay, get that set. All right, now I'm going to set this in here because I want to set the clock behind him a little bit. So I'm going to kind of position, and then I'm going to glue the clock in. I backed the clock on some brown cardstock to give it a little bit of strength. The cut-aparts can be somewhat flimsy at times, so I want to make sure that I've got a nice stiff piece there. Okay, too far. All right, we're going to set it right about there because I want the clock right in behind. This has such a glossy background. You can see where I've been inking. Inking can become so ugly, but as long as it turns out the way I want it on the front side, then I'm fine. Okay. And I'm going to wipe off the glue here because I don't want it sticking. I didn't get enough here. It doesn't want to stick. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to put antiques here, but I want the lamp behind it, so let's kind of play with the position, and then I'm going to glue the lamp down first because I want the word antiques on the top. Just like so. Now we'll put this down. Foot's not staying down. Okay, so now this is done. Now we're going to have left and right panels, and they're both going to measure the same. I want to get these kind of moved out of the way a little bit here. All right, so each panel is going to measure at 5 1/4 inches, and you're going to score these at 1/2 and at 1/8, both of them. And then they're going to come in and sit here on the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine in. And I want to bring it right up to the 1/2 inch score mark. Then I'm going to push back, reinforce that extra score line, and now I'm going to do the same with this side. And again, it's the same measurement, 5 1/4 by the height of the page, your base piece. Okay. And I'm going to reinforce that score line. Now on the inside, I have the 12 by 12 sheet that has this pattern on it. And I cut it so that I had the figurines on one side, and then I cut this so that I had the lady, the numerical elements, and the clock on this side. And then I'm going to glue this in. And then I'm going to just place this in here. Now you have a sheet that has some sayings, some little card sayings on it. Let me see if I can grab it. It's this sheet here. Turn it right side. And there were some small ones, and I've cut and mounted and taped one of them, and I'm going to just kind of set it here in the center so that there's a bit of a tuck. And then I'm going to do the same for this side, and that was the other small one that I've cut out and I'm going to use. And I've already mounted it and ran some tape on the back side. And I'm just going to stick it right here. So that has, this is your inner page. Now for the outside, I used a 12 by 12 sheet that had these patterns on the front. Now I had cut out a section here because I wanted this piece the way that I've cut it, and so these will be the two pieces you've used off that 12 by 12 sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this in place. And then this side here. And then gently drop this in. And then open up again to some burnish. Okay, now I cut these purposely so there's this gap so it's just some of my crazy methods. I'm not going to try and explain it, but anyway, it's intended to have a gap in the center there. All right, now your top and your bottom pieces. Here's where I wanted to get into some fussy cutting, but I thought, you know, I'm not going to challenge myself or you for that matter, so I left the elements in place. So your front piece is going to be the piece that has the clock elements on it. This is the piece I wanted to fussy cut, but trying to fussy cut around this chain just wasn't going to work for me. But anyway, this is the 12 by 12 I want you to use. And you're going to trim in a little bit here and then a little bit here so that you have, I wanted to keep these elements in here. And I didn't want to cut into what I see as my visual line. So now this top piece is going to open up this way. So it is going to be 9 1/4 across, but in its height, its depth, it's going to be 7 1/4, scoring it at 1/2 and then scoring it at 3/4. That's going to be your top piece. Your bottom piece is going to measure at 4 5/8, and again you're going to score it at 1/2 inch, and you're going to score it at 3/4 of an inch, and that's going to be your bottom. Now for the inside, I trimmed this 12 by 12 sheet so that it had, as I laid it, that these were on across the top of the page, and then this ran across the bottom of the page. So they're going to fit in like so. I wanted the elements at the top and the bottom. Now we got a magnet we need to put in place. So before we put down any paper, we need to get these two on the album, and then we're going to place our magnet. So I'm going to start with the top piece. We have a 1/4 inch build on this. That is so that it helps to absorb everything that we've built on the inside. So you're going to just kind of lay it on that 3/4 inch score mark, and because there's a bit of a buildup, it makes a little bit of a trick to put it in there because the paper itself wants to fold. This wants to fold in until you get the tape on it. So we're going to do the same here. You're going to come just up to that 3/4 inch score line. And then you're going to, well, for Pete's sake, I keep adjusting one end and the other. And then you're going to just kind of tap it in place. And then we can turn it over and burnish it. Now, see, I didn't pull it in far enough. This is what happened. Here's the tape. So I'm going to have to lift this. I'm going to try and put it on. I'm going to try and put it on this way. That worked a lot easier. So if you haven't put yours on yet, do it from the inside just like this. And you can see that we've got this gusset here, and that's going to help absorb all that build that we just did. Now we need to get a set of magnets in place. And I'm going to put it on the top because there is plenty of depth on the bottom piece. No, I'm going to put it here because I've actually got more depth on the top piece. So put it here. Now I want to fold this over. I want to make sure my gussets are standing up straight and that I'm even and not lopsided. Okay, so those are in. I am going to go ahead and work on this top piece up here. And I think what I'm going to do is fold it in half this way so I can get to it easily. There's quite a bit here to glue, and I don't want to do that because by the time I get to one end it's going to be dry. But I also have a magnet, and I don't want the magnet behind glue if I have to adjust it for any reason. So I'm going to use some tape. And if you're new to my channel, most of the tools that I use are sold by Scrap and Create, like this little tool, and I'll have it listed in the description section so that you have the link to it directly to their website. Or you can just go to Scrap in Create and search it. It's called Tape and Tear Tool. And they have the pick. So if you want to use a pick, I'll have that listed there as well. I flop between the two using my fingernails and the pick. It's actually gentler if I use a pick. Okay, so I'm going to slide this in here, commit the centerpiece, and then I can tape down my edges. All right, so then on this piece, I built a pocket. It's gonna go across here. And then I took this out of my scraps, so it's gonna fit in here like so. And then from the same sheet of cutouts for sayings, I'm using this one, it's gonna go right here. And then from the chipboard elements, I'm using a couple of the roses, and they're going to go right there. So let me go ahead and get this in place. Okay, and then I'm just going to set that right there. Excuse me, I so apologize. But you know, when a sneeze comes on, it comes on. I apologize. And then I will glue this in place. I'm not going to take the glue all the way up here because I'm concerned about how high I want to put this, and I don't want it to glue down onto this page. Now I'm centering this peak onto the peak of the dark brown trim piece that I cut. I don't want peaks, opposing peaks, if you will. All right, so I'm just gonna tap that in there. And then this one here. And there is the top part of the flap page. Now it still leaves you plenty of room in here for journaling, and you've got a nice pocket here for tucking in those mementos. Now on the bottom piece, this one, I'm going to close that for now. We'll go right here, nothing special to it, just going to glue it and put it in place. I want the element again on the bottom. And the reason being is so that when this opens up, you're seeing the same pattern top to bottom. In this piece, I didn't add any additional elements, leaving it for your photo or for journaling in. You could put a dedication in here, date, time, names of people involved. All right, now we're going to close this. So now we're going to work on these two pieces. And again, I'm using this timepiece and these stamps. They're going to sit on here so that there's some depth, a little bit of some element workings going on there, and then this piece is going to come in under here. I'm going to tape them, so I'm going to cap off my glue for now. I just ran out of tape. I always think there's more on here than there is. And so I'm going to have to use 3/8 of an inch because the tape is across the room. So I'll use a little wider tape for now. Now before I take off that last piece, I'm going to use it as my glider so I can kind of glide this in place, and then I'll push down. Okay. All right, now for the top piece. Now I tried to ink, the chipboard is got such a glossy finish to it, it's really hard to ink them to give them any kind of a color depth. So but I'm using a distress ink, and I'm wondering if a different type of ink. So if you have found the same, you might use something that's not a watercolor color, maybe an oil-based ink for coloring their chipboard pieces. I kind of thought about that when I first started, but I was already deep into using the one color and I wanted to stay with it. And maybe you don't ink your edges, so it doesn't matter. All right, so now we'll glue this guy into place. Just a little bit of a tilt. Now I'm finding that the magnet underneath is fighting me, so I'm going to go this way until that takes. Okay. And then this chipboard element, the two stamps. Just going to tuck that right in there. All right. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything or forget anything. And there's your bottom piece. These two will open. You've got a couple of tucks and you have a nice pocket. Still room for photos here. All right, let's get her taped up on the back side and get it in the album. Now this is quite bulky. We did a good build up on this. So I am going to put, I think 3 strips of tape down the middle back side to hold the weight. We'll go ahead and get it in the album. Now I'm going to turn it this way so that I can see where I'm mounting, and it's going to sit in just so. And I'm taking this edge right to this edge, and then I'm balancing the depth on both the ends, my right and my left hand. Make sure it's sitting in here even. I'm just going to gently lay it down. and give it a good press. Okay. And now I'll sneak in here. And take the tape off. Make sure my gusset stays straight when I push this down. And then get in here to this last one. Whoops. Excuse my head. Make sure that gusset stays straight. Okay, so that is signature number 4. And if you have, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and I'll answer any questions that I can. So I'll see you for this final build. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.